In the meantime, you may have noticed we had kind of a big election last week. Now that the dust has started to settle and the commercials are back to normal, we thought this would be a time to take a look at what the results tell us about a lot of different issues. And that, my friends, is our big story tonight. The huge development nationally, of course, was Donald Trump winning the presidency in resounding fashion. In fact, according to vote totals nationwide as of Friday morning, Trump lost ground in Washington state compared to the 2020 election, but that is the only state where that happened. According to an analysis of AP data by the Financial Times, in every other state, the president-elect gained ground this time around, whether he won the state or not. This is based on preliminary data, as most states have at least some more time to count their votes and certify. So, what does another Trump presidency mean for you and I in Oregon, or even in parts of the Northwest in general? Well, I took that question to Jim Moore. He's a political scientist from Pacific University.
So people are using the word wave a lot. This is not a wave. It's a very close election. But at this, as we're speaking, it does look like the Republicans will probably have control of the House and definitely have control of the Senate. So what does it mean in terms of just the closeness of the election? Because that's not very much movement. Remember, in the Senate, you have to have 60 votes to do anything because of the filibuster. If you're going to do other things, remember Biden had the initiative that dealt with inflation and green projects and things like that. They turned it into a fiscal plan, a budget plan, and that has slightly different rules. So the Trump people would have to do that to pass anything major through the Senate. In the House, the Republicans, even if they have a majority, remember the Republican Congress, basically the one that just finished, they couldn't pick a speaker for days. They got rid of a speaker. They couldn't pass major legislation because there was always a group of anywhere from 5 to about 40 Republicans who said, no, we want more. So they're going to have a lot of party discipline to make things happen.
So what he's saying is, whether you are excited or worried about the Republicans controlling the presidency and Congress, tone it down a little bit. The new president will not be able to move as fast as you might think. But it is likely we will eventually feel the impacts of his policies.
Well, there's kind of two main things to look at. So the first thing is kind of everybody's daily life. And remember, the president is actually pretty far removed from most people's daily lives. But will the Trump tax cut be renewed? That's kind of the first big test coming up here. Then secondly, there are sets of issues that are important. So in Oregon and Washington, you've got all the federal lands. Are we going to allow more timber cutting? Are we going to increase the grazing? Will there be mining? Those kinds of things. Not so important in the Portland metro area, but when you get out into some of the more rural areas, especially in Eastern Oregon, can make a big difference. And then there's kind of a third set of things, the immigration idea. If there's going to be truly mass deportations and things like that, there's a lot of towns in Oregon and Washington that are going to be in a load of hurt because their workforce is going to diminish. And there still are not enough people to fill those jobs right now. It's going to hit them really hard. Look, especially in the construction industry, a lot of agricultural kinds of things, agricultural processing, those are going to be hit really hard with the Trump policies.
Now, moving on to the Oregon legislature in Salem, the professor was watching for change, but actually saw little.
The state politics, the Republicans tried once again to break out of the 40 to 45% range in statewide races. Lathrop was barely able to do it, but the Democrats always get 50%-ish, and they all got 50%-ish and they won, so no change there. And then the state legislature, where there could have been some real movement, hardly any movement whatsoever. Republicans lose one seat that was expected in the Bend area in the Senate. So in the Senate, it's now a supermajority, 18-12 for the Democrats. But in the House, the Republicans kept the battleground seat. And so it's still 35-25, no supermajority. So very little change there. The remarkable thing to me about the state legislative races, though, there was no campaigning on big issues. When the Democrats win, this is what we're going to do. We've had this in past years. We're going to do climate policy. We're going to do the tax system. We're going to look at land use. None of that. And so we're waiting to see what they're going to do. It seems like transportation is going to be the big focus, but that was not central to the campaigns at all, which is a big, big, big change.
Well, and I think it wasn't central because it means you and I are going to pay more money.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw that. I was giving talks all over the place, and especially anywhere kind of from McMinnville along I-205 to the airport. Boy, a lot of vote for this person and don't have any tolls.
And we've heard that from you as well. Finally, we talked about Portland's historic experiment with ranked choice voting and multi-winner races. I told the professor, didn't really seem to me to create results that would have been any different from our normal elections.
No, I don't think there's any difference whatsoever. The classic case is the mayor's race, where Keith Wilson had kind of a 2-to-1 advantage in first place votes. And guess what? When you went through all the 19 cycles, he won. Big surprise. And the same kind of thing happened in city council races. If you look at the people who have basically been called for each of the districts, they were usually the top 3 in the first round. So I don't think it did anything at that level. What it did do, especially in the city council races, it changed the tenor of the election. The election was not, I want to sabotage somebody else. The election was, here's who I am. And often groups of candidates got together and kind of ran as a slate. And so that's fascinating and much more positive. We saw a little bit of sabotaging going on in the mayor's race. There was a coalition of people that said anybody but Rene Gonzalez to keep him off the ballot. I don't think that was fundamental to his losing the race, but that kind of thing did happen. So I think it's a mixed bag at this point. We'll have to wait and see as we move forward. Now, Keith Wilson is an outsider. You would not have expected him to be able to play a role to win. But I think the things that got him in there were not the ranked choice voting system. I think it was his own candidacy, the clarity of his idea about dealing with the homeless population, whether you agree with it or not, it was darn clear. And that Oregonian poll that all of a sudden he was credible, that had him getting a bunch of second and third place votes. And people looked and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to give him first place votes. And that's what got him through.
All right, so that's the professor's take. What about yours? Did you take part in ranked choice voting? If so, did you find it too confusing and you just skipped it altogether? Do you have any other feedback from the election results? Let us know, will you? You know we love your feedback. Send us an email. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or you could call and leave a voicemail. The phone number is 503-226-5090. I do look forward to hearing from you. And remember, it's a big, big tent we have here. Everyone's welcome. We do not cater to one political agenda or the other.